Grandiosity and the best of intentions. They say the road to hell is paved with the best of intentions. And grand schemes have definitely brought down a lot of men. A lot of men. They usually take down civilizations with them. Tonight we're talking about the Republican tax plan, tax reform debate, aired on CNN. I watched what I pretty much was the bulk of it, about an hour and a half. If it was longer than that, then I missed the first part. Excuse me. Still battling my head cold. I listened intently to all four senators pitch their belief as to what the tax reform would do, who it would benefit, and its overall long-term effect. Grandiosity and you know what kept, excuse me, can't afford any Benadryl or nothing. Do you know what kept reoccurring, coming to the forefront of my mind as to what kind of analogy could I possibly use to wrap my head and maybe wrap your head around it? Jim Jones, infamous cult leader. Of course, in the beginning, he wasn't a cult leader. He was the pastor of a church. And he had the absolute best of intentions. You know? Earnest intentions. Had in the beginning, had Wonder Woman put the lasso of truth around him and questioned him as to were his motives malevolence or benevolence, you know, and he would have answered quite honestly and truthfully that he only wanted to help people. I honestly believe that was definitely his original motives. Unfortunately, we saw what ultimately culminated from the massive acquisition of wealth, segregating away from U.S. laws, deregulating, okay? I don't know if you're catching my comparative analogies here. But yes, after listening intently to this debate, that is what I come away with, a feeling that it is very much indeed akin to Jim Jones and his cult. Neither Cruz nor Scott contested or denied the fact that whatever tax cuts are being dangled in front of people who are not wealthy are very much indeed temporary. And all of the tax cuts that benefit the wealthy, mega corporations like this Walmart, they're very much indeed permanent. Very permanent. Now, there's something I'd like to bring up now that I've said that. Cruz found himself, I guess, you know, doing his little checkmate maneuver on Bernie. Ted called himself checkmating Bernie when he goes on to say that if you were to take all of corporations like this and Silicon Valley, all those wealthy, and you were to add up all their net wealth, it would pay for something like 8% of Bernie's universal health care plan, you know. And therefore that was Ted Cruz's way of trying to tell Bernie and everybody else that, taxing the rich is not going to close the deficit. It's not going to foot America's bills. Yeah, I know, Ted. Anybody with a brain knows this. And if anything, if you're paying attention, if you're not an insipid moron, then you understand that because people like you are so wealthy and pay so little in taxes, okay, with your swank, expensive tax lawyers, that people like me, people like that gentleman, people who are employed here, they can't afford those lawyers. They cost fantastic amounts of money, okay? And quite frankly, our pittance, our annual income is just pittance. And so you acknowledge that you pay so very little of America's bills. However, you go on to say that you want these tax breaks for you and all your rich cronies to be built in, hardwired, and permanent. Interesting. If it is the American proletariat that foots America's bills, that pays for everything, okay? Missiles that we fire off, from what I understand, the artillery, ordnances can be extremely expensive. Tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands per rocket, okay? So if we have to foot the bill for all this, and certainly not you, if I'm not mistaken, I believe your president, Trump, he brags about how little he pays, and he feels that that's just. Because after all, he's got schmucks like me and everybody else here that pay for everything. We foot America's bills. But apparently, this tax plan is, without doubt and question, geared to giving the most lucrative benefit. It benefits the wealthy, first and foremost. And it goes on to surmise, if there's any pittance left over, if there's anything left over, we'll sprinkle a little bit something your way, you little minions, you, if there's anything left over. And it is also their position that if massive tax breaks were to be given to Walmart and all the other mega Fortune 500 companies, then all of a sudden they're going to start to hire people like crazy, and wages are going to go up. I've lost count of how many times they said wages are going to go up. This has got to be the biggest Jedi mind trick that's so glaringly obvious that is not the reality at all. I've already spoken about wages. They don't think that people like us are even worth what we're getting paid as it is now. There's a lot more I want to say about low wage worth, employment worth. I will agree that the American proletariat, its work ethic has indeed gotten significantly worse, less. Although, if I'm being brazenly honest, I don't really exactly know if I can blame them. When they screw up my takeout order or whatnot, can I really and truly blame them? I mean, when we used to stress over the details of something as simple as fast food order, I remember, I used to get a lecture if I didn't put in the little spork and knife packet at KFC when I worked there, from people's little individual meals, and you got a lecture about that. But now, It's no big deal. They don't care. And can you fault them for not caring? We've seen the corporations excel themselves to fantastic wealth on the New York Stock Exchange. We've seen the owners of these franchises just become increasingly wealthy, and the wage gap continues to divide. And of course, they constantly say, well, what you're doing isn't that important anyway. Well, if it's not that important, then why are you hiring us at all? What I mean is, this parent company, this Walmart, the conglomeracy of Walmart, and so many other corporations, okay? They are so fantastically wealthy that it would not kill them at all to pay a living wage. They just don't see us as worth it. So we see how we see what happens. Quality of the work ethic goes down, productivity goes down, I suppose, and price indexes go up. The wealthy continue to get tax breaks. The American proletariat continue to pick up the slack. We continue to foot the bill. We're the ones that pay for those tax credits, the wealthy's tax breaks. This tax plan does not take people like me into account. It doesn't take any of these workers into account. The Republicans keep throwing around the term middle class, average American. I think they kept saying average American making $73,000, $80,000. Guess what? If you're bringing in that kind of bank, you are so not the average American, okay? So that's where your logic train jumps the track, okay? Because that's where you're beginning to make up your own fantasy reality. Maybe because these lawmakers have been so detached from their impoverished constituents for so long. Because I understand a couple of them. What was it, Scott? My mother was a single mother, and Cruz, oh, my parents, they came washing dishes, 50 cents an hour a day, or whatever. Wherever it is you came from, you're definitely not there now, and you definitely have forgotten where you came from. You are detached from all of this. You're detached from poverty. You don't understand. I've got maybe about $60 left to my name. My next pay isn't until the 13th. This is a 5-week rotation for me. It's extremely harsh. That means that's a whole extra week I have to wait for my next disability check, which means that not this Wednesday, but under normal circumstances, next Wednesday I'd be getting paid, but it's going to be even longer. On the 13th is when I get paid again, and this obviously isn't enough money, and that therefore means that there's going to be several days where I'm just simply going to have to go without eating. I definitely couldn't afford a doctor's office visit for my head cold today, although there's not a whole hell of a lot they can do for head colds anyway. You know, your honey lemon, stuff like that. I got some, I found some cold tablets. I got some Advil Cold and Sinus that I bought earlier in the year. Yeah. So they talked an awful lot about healthcare as well. Bernie, I will say this about Ted Cruz. He did bring up some interesting points about Bernie's universal health care, assuming, of course, his mathematics are right. It's not just simply tonight's debate. I have been following Bernie's universal health care for a while. It's almost as if Bernie wants people like me who are young. I'd like to still consider myself young and healthy. Thank God I don't have any health issues. It's as if he's saying, be forced to pay for everybody else who is sick, even if it means lowering your take home. Okay, because remember now, Bernie, all this lovely universal health care, somebody's paying for it, and you are charging not just simply the rich, but you want everybody to pitch in and pay for this. Again, just like how I criticize the Republicans and their fantasy future, like our Jim Jones taxes. Oh, it could all go well. I can see it now. If the corporations are given all these wonderful tax breaks, how it'll be a utopia. There'll be jobs and high wages for everybody. And just like Jim Jones, of course it never goes that way. It ends up being a big clusterfuck. Same thing with Bernie. Bernie's got a little of the Jim Jones-itis himself. Oh my God, if we all just simply chip in and pay for all this, everything will be so, the medical community will be so much more affordable. Bernie, you completely underestimate this medical community. And I'm trying very, very hard here. Hold on a second. Woo. Had to change hands. Hold on, make sure I'm still okay. Still recording. Bernie, and I'm trying very, very hard here not to become mired in ethnic stuff. Okay? But I don't think you're taking into account, this medical community. Nothing goes down, okay? They're not going to make it more affordable. Who remembers CFL bulbs? Your standard light bulbs, and then we had the little curly swirly bulbs, and how everybody said, "Oh my God, switch over to these." Number one, they last forever, so even though you're paying a premium for them, you'll never have to buy bulbs again, in like forever, and they will cause your electric bill to plunge. That turned out to be true for about a year and a half. Okay. See, you got to keep track of all the moving parts. Government and big corporations bank heavily on you only being able to remember but so much. They're banking on you having a Generation 1 CD player. For those of you old enough to understand what that is, those were CD players that they had like 3 seconds of skip protection. That's what big government and big corporations are banking on. You really only having a 3-second, they're hoping that you won't follow along. When those bulbs came out, when those prices came down, do you know what Big Oil and Big Electric did? They then got their highly paid lobbyists, okay, to go to Washington and lobby to raise the price of crude and to raise the price of electricity, because you got to go to Congress to do that. And that's exactly what they did, and that's exactly what they were successful in doing. Big Oil. Every single time you make these cars more and more fuel efficient, all you're doing is causing your own gas tank to go up and up and up. I don't think you understand. They will never allow you to keep that money and to accrue a degree of financial solvency. Okay? If you become too independent, if you begin to accrue money to actually become, that the thing that they're always pitching is, oh, it'll be so wonderful that, America will finally. If you were to actually begin to attain that level of utopia, that both sides pitch, they would begin to freak the hell out. Holy shit, these people don't need us. We got to do something because we got to get we got to get everybody latched back onto the government teat quick, fast, and in a hurry. That's exactly what's going to happen. What was it when solar is sweeping the nation? And I was talking to somebody, and they were like, "Oh my goodness, after my solar conversion, my bill is down 30%." I'm like, "Only 30%? Is that it?" Oh hell no! If I go solar, I want to get off the grid completely, baby. Trust me, I already live in the dead of winter with no electricity in my camp whatsoever. This could be done, okay? Batteries. Oh my god. Okay, I'm totally getting off into a whole bunch of other stuff. I got to get back on point here. All right. The taxes. They benefit the wealthy. They don't benefit us. They don't care about you. It's a whole bunch of fancy mythological utopia. Just do it, vote for it, and oh my God, so much wonderfulness will happen. Yeah, just like how Jim Jones thought, if you just simply give him all of your wealth and let him take care of it, you don't have to worry about anything anymore. And he was serious when he initiated that. He wanted a utopia, a paradise for everybody, but unfortunately, it never ever stays that way. Just like you're taking a union. They always start out good, but once the money and the union dues start rolling in, they become decadent unto themselves. It always starts out good and it always ends bad. Same thing with this tax plan. They don't have they don't care about. I think there was a couple people that stood up that said a $15,000 a year student, and Ted Cruz's answer to her basically was, "Don't worry, because you're in school, and that's not your job anyway. And when you get your job," see, there he goes projecting into the future. When you get your job, so he's hoping. I hope you get your job, and I hope the job pays well, and I hope. That's an awful lot of I hope in that, my friend. An awful lot of I hope. Same thing with Bernie's universal health care. If everybody pays in, everything will be great. No, Bernie, it won't be great. Okay? These greedy people, okay, they're only going to gobble up and they're going to raise the rates that much more. Okay? Just like with electricity and crude, healthcare, it's only going to gobble it up. As New Jersey starts reaching its $15 an hour, you're going to start to see utilities are going to go up. Mark my words here. New Jersey's legislation, the price per gallon is going to go up. Everything is going to go up because everybody is going to want their slice of the pie. Oh my God, you've got more money. I want my fair share of your more money. No, my production cost hasn't really gotten any more expensive, but I just feel like I should have some more of your money. Why? Because I can't actually have you becoming financially independent. Not wealthy. The average American isn't gunning to become fantastically wealthy. That's these corporations. We just simply want to be able to relax and not have the linings of our stomach turned into Swiss cheese, worrying about rent, food, utility, healthcare, transportation. Okay? You're the ones out there who are doggedly pursuing grotesque, unfathomable wealth. The proletariat, the real average American, man, we just simply want to be able to live our life without having the stress over the basics of life. All right, I've talked long enough, and there you have it. Total Control, 871.